With Marshadow already available in Japan and with an English event confirmed for next month, I think now's the perfect time to do a how to use guide for Marshadow. So let's go and check out its weaknesses, resistances, as well as its stats to get an idea as to what Marshadow wants to do. Now for the stats of Marshadow, it is a 600 base stat total mythical Pokemon, which means it's going to have some pretty strong stats. And what makes Marshadow stand out is that it doesn't have 100 across the boards, 125 on the attack, 125 on the speed. So it's going to be a very fast Pokemon that does a solid amount of damage. And normally when we get to these like speed damage tiers, those are glass cannon sweepers. Not Marshadow. Marshadow has above average hit points and defenses with that, so it's going to be able to take a hit and then hit pretty hard in return. As for its typing, it is the new Fighting Ghost typing. We have not seen it before, and it leads to some pretty interesting interactions. So we do have 4 weaknesses. Flying, Ghost, Psychic, and Fairy. We have 2 immunities, Normal and Fighting, and then we have 3 resistances, one of them being a 4 times resistance. But I think since Marshadow is such a very powerful Pokemon, and understanding like Ghost and Fighting, that's pretty obvious. But remember, Ghost is still going to land on it, Fairy is big damage, Psychic and Flying, that's going to be pretty free as well. And then we look at the moveset for Marshadow. Pretty intense. So we have the Elemental Punches, Drain Punch, Shadow Sneak. We even go into the Close Combat, Sucker Punch, Endeavor, Jump Kick. And then we also have our crazy signature move, Spectral Thief. And even going into TMs, there are a lot of options that Marshadow can use. And it does have a very high amount of speed, so things are going to get pretty scary. And we also need to pay attention to what happens in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon when it comes to move tutors for the Marshadow as well. But it's already looking to be a pretty scary Pokemon. And then I want to go and check out the Pokemon Global Link really quick. So Pokemon Global Link for the No Holds Barred competition, Marshadow was actually the #1 used Pokemon, and then by looking at it, it seems like a very straightforward Pokemon, just want to go for the offenses. Every once in a while you have a little bit of sneaky tech hidden in there, and you just want to be a hard-hitting, fast Pokemon. So now let's go into Pokemon Showdown and check out Marshadow's moveset. And this is pretty much going to be like the standard easy mode Marshadow. You go with the Jolly Nature, outspeed almost everything, Life Orb for the damage, and then you just wreck. So we have Spectral Thief, Close Combat, Ice Punch, and Shadow Sneak. The idea is that if anything survives, it's going to be able to get comboed. So, Close Combat, Shadow Sneak, that's done. Spectral Thief, Shadow Sneak, that's done. And we also have the Technician ability, so that means Shadow Sneak, it's going to be like playing with Sizzle. That Bullet Punch, that gets boosted into Stab. Marshadow is going to be the same. And with that Fighting Ghost typing, it feels unfair when you start trying to think about ways of getting around the Marshadow. Like, alright, Spectral Thief. For those of you who haven't heard of Spectral Thief yet, steals target stat boost before dealing damage. So, and it steals as well. It will take that away. So say they use Swords Dance. Well, you attack, you get that +2 Swords Dance, and then it factors into your attack, and now they don't have their Swords Dance anymore. So when dealing with a format such as just, a free battle that can allow for Marshadow, you have to be very, very careful about when you're setting up and if you can deal with the Marshadow. That 125 on the speed is pretty tough to deal with, so what happens is you're setting up on a Pokemon, Marshadow comes in, outspeed, steal, and now you just get to lose the game. Because that's how Marshadow works, and then it's just going to be absolutely ridiculous from there. So you will need a very defensive heavy Pokemon. Also, if you see the Marshadow come in, just switch out. If you have any stat boosts on Pokemon, and you can't outspeed it, just don't even play that game. Sacrifice something else. That way Marshadow has a chance of not snowballing and then going 6-0 after that. Having very tough, high defense tanks can work pretty well against the Marshadow, but at the same time, it still rocks very high amounts of base power. Life Orb, 120 attack, Close Combat, that's going to be pretty brutal. And that's kind of how Marshadow plays. That first hit, what it wants to do is it wants to take that first hit from the opponent if it can't finish them off, and then after that, it's going to be very vulnerable from using Close Combat, and if you can get around it then, that's where you can take advantage over the Marshadow, but unless you can do that, it gets pretty scary pretty quick. Also, some other ways of playing Marshadow is with the Focus Sash. Like, if your opponent sees your Marshadow, they're going to want to remove it from the game with like a Scarf Pokemon. Come in with that Scarf Lele. Actually, Scarf Garchomp doesn't have enough damage to take out the Marshadow because of these natural defensive stats. So that's actually something tricky to think about. But the idea behind this is, say they already have Dragon Dance. You know, Dragon Dance makes life pretty hard for the Marshadow. Anything with a speed boost, so Scolipede, Blaziken, that's where things start getting a little tricky for the Marshadow. Well, not if you have the Focus Sash, because then what you do is you endure the hit and then you kill them. So that means you Spectral Thief, or you Spectral Thief, steal all those stats, and then you follow it up with a Shadow Sneak. And if you Spectral Thief the right stats, then that means Shadow Sneak is going to be one-hit KO City. +2 from the Swords Dance with this boosted Shadow Sneak and all kinds of stuff like that. We'll look at the damage calculations. It gets pretty tough to deal with. And if you steal more stats, that's pretty ridiculous as well. And the only thing Shadow Sneak is needed for at that point is if they also have priority, because you're at 1 hit points. But if you gain any of those stats, as long as you're getting those outspeeds, as long as you're still putting down damage, that's going to be pretty good. Now, this can also be really good because if a Pokemon is naturally faster than you and you do not have a way of dealing with it, that means you just come in with the Endeavor into the Shadow Sneak on that Focus Sash Survival, and their one possible way of stopping your Marshadow is now removed because of that Focus Sash. And then, like I said, it gives you that both ways of play. That say a Pokemon comes in, Tapu Lele, you get to survive it, boom, Spectral Thief, it's gone just like that. If they're outboosting you because of the speed boost, then you can go and steal that and then KO them. And then if they don't have any boost to steal, you can Endeavor, level the playing field, and then it's going to be pretty good for you just like that. Also, you can Endeavor again, that if you don't have a way of one-shotting their next Pokemon because there's just that much Marshadow hate hanging around, you can at least get them down to 1 hit points, and now Marshadow is trading very effectively because of the use of that Focus Sash. And then as for some other things that the Marshadow can pull off, you have Bulk Up, Drain Punch, Spectral Thief, Ice Punch, so you can run a bulkier Marshadow. And I have seen this done. You can run that Adamant Nature, get a lot of stats right there, max out the hit points, and then it's up to you. Do you still want to be faster? Because there are a lot of Pokemon that are in like the 100 base speed kind of range. So if you look at it right here, 100 speed, Charizard, any kind of Pokemon, Timid Nature, 252, so that brings you up to 328 at level 100, and then that's also going to be, for the level 50 people out there, 167. So that's going to change around your EVs just a little. So let's do it for level 50 because that's where the autoing is, so we just want to go to 168. Now, because of this, unless we're like looking to outspeed other things like Life Orb, Garchomp, or whatever ranges, we can get a little bit of extra tankiness in there, and that's going to back up with our Bulk Up. And that's still outspeeding full speed invested Pokemon because of your 125 on speed. So you don't have to go full invested to make sure that people keep up with you, but also you can just go full tank as well. That since we are using Bulk Up, that's going to boost our defense, which means we might want to put in a lot more special defense, top off a little bit on that defense so we can survive a hit, and now we're going to be pretty tough to deal with. Now, the awkward thing about this is that as a Marshadow, you want to steal stats with Spectral Thief, but the thing is, there's not going to be every single team looking to do setup, or there's not going to be every opportunity to steal every time your opponent tries to boost a move. So having that Bulk Up, it gives you the extra stats when you need it. Now, another thing you can do is also just go like max hit points, max attack, 1 Bulk Up into big damage with the Drain Punch as well, and then you're still not looking to be a crazy fast Pokemon, and you're trying to balance out your stats. And also, if you are trying to like outspeed certain Pokemon, maybe the Jolly Nature would be more useful, because then if you're not putting into attack, you go +2 on the Bulk Up. Well, +2 on the Bulk Up is going to give you more than EVs and stats and natures can ever give you. So that means you're just like, okay, what I want to do is I want to give myself enough health to where I can survive to 2 Bulk Ups. Bulk Up once, Drain Punch, get that health back, Bulk Up again, and now you're doing more damage while being tankier than any of the other Marshadow sets. Does mean you can get exploited by special attackers. Also, another thing that Marshadow can run is the Will-O-Wisp. If you don't want the Ice Punch, you can run Will-O-Wisp instead, because if they have a fast physical attacker and you're faster, now you get to shut them down and then take them out in a way that you see fit. I think that Will-O-Wisp next to Drain Punch is a little better because now they don't do as much damage to you. You're still doing a lot of damage. Drain Punch with Stab, still pretty solid, and then you're healing up. So this is where like the tanky Marshadow does get a little more awkward to play, but it is something that people would not expect. You can go out, run the tankier Marshadow, their damage calculations, they're expecting an uninvested Marshadow, maybe a little bit of hit points or a little bit of X defense stat, and if you're just that more tanky than it, your Marshadow survives, they don't know what to do about it, and then you go and win the battle off of it. As for the item, I feel Citrus Berry could be solid because, yeah, like you can't guarantee if you're going to survive to like a quarter hit points or something like that. Leftovers does give you that long sustain, but if you're going bulk up, take a hit, Citrus Berry into Drain Punch, back at full health with free +1. Citrus Berry is going to give you a lot more opportunities to do that, whereas Leftovers, you know, it might be off by just those little bits of hit points, and then things are just going to suck for you right there. And then going back to the Pokemon Global Link, you know, you can see some other things. Tech, you can run the Poison Jab. Some people are running Sucker Punch. I don't know about, like, Sucker Punch is also interesting because, yeah, you can get walled out by normal type Pokemon. If they're faster than you because they're scarfed or something and they have a super effective hit threatening you, the Sucker Punch is going to be good because that's a lot of damage coming back. But with Technician, you're actually getting more damage out of the Shadow Sneak, so... And then you have to play the mind games. It gets kind of awkward pretty quick with that. But yeah, Poison Jab, because as a fighting Pokemon, you are weak against Fairy. You can see, like, when defeated, what Pokemon take it out. Marshadow, because you have, like, Ghost against Ghost. Tapu Koko, Mimikyu, Tapu Lele, Magearna. And then just some other Pokemon that, like, yo, if Salamence is already +2, and if you're not running Focus Sash, you're going to get blown up anyways, and it doesn't matter. Shaman doesn't have, like, a 126 on the speed or something, so it comes in with the Air Slash, and then that's how you just take out the Marshadow right there. So, yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at. Now, as for the damage calculations, let's go and reset this screen right here. I'm just looking at some things. You know, we have Tapu Koko. Let's bring in Dazzling Gleam, because I don't know why this moveset doesn't have Dazzling Gleam. Dazzling Gleam, with Life Orb, doesn't even have a guaranteed chance to KO Marshadow. That's something you can consider. But again, this is where if you're running the Focus Sash, that's where things get interesting. If you're going up against a weakened Tapu Koko, that's Shadow Sneak. That Technician Life Orb Shadow Sneak is going to be crazy amounts of damage. You know, 56%, two-shotting on priority. Just like that with the Marshadow. Now, you are taking Life Orb damage, so Dazzling Gleam into whatever hit, into Life Orb, you're killing yourself, and if you don't finish off the Tapu Koko, that's going to be bad. But it's a Fairy matchup into a fighting Pokemon. Just the things you need to be aware of when running the Marshadow. Because of this, some people will actually opt in for the Marshadium Z, so that's when they'll go Z move, and then Never Ending Nightmare is enough to KO Pokemon like that. So, it again comes down to, like, the damage calcs and weird stuff like that. And there's probably, again, like, very niche breakdowns where you go, oh, okay, instead we're going to go 220 on our attack. And since we're anticipating more Psychic and Fairy-type Pokemon, that's where we put the rest into it. Like, actually, what range will we actually have, like, really good survivability? So, if you get about 80... I mean, it's pretty much your tolerance, you know. How much attack do you want to lose? Because then it starts getting tougher on you. But at the same time, if you're looking to steal, you know, you steal Swords Dance, it doesn't matter if you have 200 investment or 250 investment or anything like that. You're still going to be doing a lot of damage. The speed at 125, very necessary right there because there are other 125 base speed Pokemon. You also want to keep close to the other ones just below you. So I feel like, yeah, it's pretty much like what's your risk tolerance? And again, if you are going up against Tapu Koko and you're staying against Tapu Koko, it's just one of those awkward matchups I wanted to kind of show you the intricacies of as we go a little further into this. And then also just kind of looking at our raw damage. So say we have Life Orb into that 125 attack, close combat. That is not going to be enough to one-shot a Garchomp, but it's still going to do a lot of damage to a lot of Pokemon. So Marshadow, it wants to be very opportunistic. It wants to use that speed to just exploit any stats the opponent is trying to get. And as you can see right here, you know, the Outrage, that's at 73 to 86. So after, like, the Life Orb into the Rough Skin, it makes life a little hard on Marshadow, but still, like, one shot on the Ice Punch, even against Pokemon like Garchomp. And then if it was any other Pokemon that's as tanky, you have a lot of 2-hit KO potential, you have, like, a lot of wind-up potential, stuff like that. So yeah, Marshadow, I think it just comes in and it can, like, just insta-win. If it catches you at the wrong time, it's way too fast, has a lot of damage, it's an incredible cleanup Pokemon. So all you have to really do if you're running Marshadow is make sure you remove the Marshadow threats. You know, you see that Lele, it's like, probably Scarf because this is Marshadow format. Or anything that's faster than Marshadow, like that Tapu Koko. Yeah, if I can get rid of that, then that means I don't have to worry about that thing just revenging on me, and then I can just stay healthy and keep KOing things. So that's kind of the build-up that we have into Marshadow. It has diverse move pool, gets to do a lot of things, has a lot of super effective hits, really just a crazy Pokemon overall, and if you can play to that win condition, then things can be pretty rewarding. Also, just because it's a mythical Pokemon, I don't play legendary formats, I don't play mythical Pokemon, I don't play free formats and stuff like that, so I don't know if I represented it pretty well, but from what I've seen people talking about it, that's kind of the idea behind Marshadow. You have to wall it. You have to play very passively around it, and that can be very frustrating, especially when Marshadow is hitting back on a lot of damage. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.